Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotion. And thank you again so much for our time together. I want us to go back to one of those little verses that you never really hear anybody talk about. Now, 1 John has always been one of my favorite books ever since Bible school, and I did a big expository study on 1 John for a class. I've loved 1 John. I've never really preached on it, but preached a lot out of it, but there's just so much truth in there. And this is one of those little verses that meant a lot to me as a baby Christian. Chapter 4, verse 16. Well, let's start with verse 15. If anyone acknowledges that Jesus is the Son of God, God lives in him and he in God. And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. Now, leave out the we know for a moment and just rely on the love God has for us. As a young baby Christian, I remember sitting down and just thinking, that's something I can rely on in life. I can rely on the fact that God loves me. I can rely on the love that God has for me. His love will never run out. His love will never stop. There's nothing I can ever do to make him stop loving me. There's nothing anybody can ever say to God that would make him stop loving me, like a person. Have you ever just sat down and meditated on that? I want to ask that you just take today and just meditate on, I can rely on the love God has for me. I can rely on that. Well, how do you know you're saved, Pastor Samuel? I can rely on the love God has for me. How do you know things are going to turn out well? I can rely on the love God has for me. How do you know God's going to answer your prayer? I can rely on the love God has for me. How do you know God's going to prosper you? I can rely on the love God has for me. How do you know God's going to heal you? I can rely on the love God has for me. I look at every aspect of my relationship with God. His promises, His plan for my life, the purpose He has for my life, the place He has for my life. I can sit back on all of that and have this incredible confidence in my heart. Because other people will break their relationship with you because somebody gossiped about you. A gossip separates as close friends. Somebody told something about your past. Somebody misinterpreted something and said something. Other people, and the relationship is just gone. But nothing can ever happen to my relationship with God. I can rely on the fact that He loves me. Sit down and just begin to meditate on that today. Things I can rely on in life. Number one, the love God has for me.